Endoparasitic is a game about perseverance, or obsession and stubbornness depending on who you ask. It's a game about surviving against all the odds that can possibly be stacked against you. But above all else, it is one of the most unique horror-themed games that I've played in a long time. The game starts with your character having 3 of his limbs ripped out of his body by monsters. Don't you all just hate it when that happens? Being the badass that he is, our main character just shrugs the injury off, uses something similar to a clothing iron to cauterize the wounds, and off he goes, dragging himself around with one arm. To make matters worse, he has a few minutes to live. Not from the shock or blood loss from having a bunch of limbs forcefully separated from his torso, no, but rather from a parasite that is not so slowly making its way into his brain, and continues to do so as you play the game. Remind me to never complain about my bad days again, please. As you can see, Endoparasitic is a game that does not waste the player's time. As soon as you start the game, you're thrown right into the madness that you will spend the next 3 or so hours of playtime doing. In my opinion, this is absolutely a point in favor of the game, as the mystery hooked me from the get-go. Who were the monsters that tore my limbs off? Who am I even playing as? What's up with the parasite? How can I drag myself around so easily with one arm? And trust me, I tried doing that last question in real life to test if it was as easy as the game makes it out to be, and really isn't? Maybe I just need to lose 3 limbs to understand, I don't know. But regardless, these were all questions that I had pretty much instantly, and I took great joy in slowly answering them as I progressed through the game. While the story is decent and it did a good job of answering most of these questions, it definitely feels like it ended a little bit too soon. Maybe it was the fact that I really liked my time with Endoparasitic, but I really wanted to know more about the world and the characters that were created there. As it stands, however, the story is mostly told via notes and computer terminals that are found on an uncommon frequency throughout the game, with the occasional voice-acted moments after reading some of them. The voice acting is pretty decent and perfectly complements the tone of the story told.
Please, please help me. You're past any help I could give you. All you can do now is pray.
But while I did have a good time with the story and atmosphere created by the developers, I feel the place where Endoparasitic shines the most is in its gameplay and game design. First of all, the gameplay is via mouse only. You click and drag the mouse in order to move your character. Right-clicking allows you to interact with things, scrolling up or down the mouse wheel opens and closes the inventory, and of course, the left mouse button also shoots your weapons, aside from moving your character. These actions compose most of the gameplay, aside from the inventory, where you gain some new possibilities. The first thing to know about your inventory is that you have a very limited number of slots or space that you can store stuff in. You have space for 3 syringes, which are essentially healing items that you can use by dragging them to the parasite, setting its progress back further away from your character's brain. And ammo. Most of the ammo types all share the same bag, per se, and you need to constantly juggle bullets in and out of your inventory as you won't have room to carry too many. Some, such as a shotgun shell, occupy more space than others, like a revolver bullet, but are also more powerful against enemies. So far, nothing special in terms of inventory, right? Well, the thing is, you have to manually load your weapons. So you use your mouse to drag the bullets into each individual chamber. Another important aspect is that messing around in your inventory does not pause the game. When you combine all these aspects, you have situations in which you're attempting to fight people while at the same time trying to gain some distance so you can hold your weapon, open your inventory, manually reload it, then close it to be able to shoot, all while trying to pay attention so you don't get hit while you do all this inventory management. Now, I know all of this may sound convoluted, but honestly, it's brilliant when associated with the setting, because it more or less emulates precisely what your character is going through. You play with just the mouse, just as he can only live with one arm. You need to click and drag your mouse in order to move, just like he has to fling himself forward with his one arm. Everything in the menu has to be done manually, and again, without shortcuts from the keyboard, being as much of a pain as it must be to manually load something with just one hand and potentially your mouth. Plus, the fact that you're constantly flicking your mouse is bound to make your hand ache a bit after a while, just like the character probably hurts from hurling his entire body. The game also has a constant fog of war covering the map, which again relates to the character's condition. Your visibility is extremely limited, so the fog of war poses an interesting challenge as you never know what's ahead of you, or around you, or behind you. The game is absolutely designed with this in mind and provides clues as to what might be awaiting you, but it isn't afraid to leave a few surprises. Sometimes you'll hear enemies before you can actually see them, and other times you'll be able to see shadows of enemies before you see the enemies themselves, as you can see on camera right now, right at the top of the screen. And speaking of enemies, the combat is simple, but it works. You basically have to stop moving to shoot, as your character can't drag himself around and hold anything at the same time. Like I said, the gameplay does relate to the setting. In order to shoot, you must grab your weapon of choice from your back, and then aim and shoot. Just be careful though, as you can see right now on screen, there is recoil to all weapons, which is shown in the form of the arm bending a bit. It's very easily manageable though. In terms of visuals and audio, there isn't much to say. The graphics are what you see and they work really well for what the game wants to do. The monster design is simple and lacks in the variety department, but the few monsters that do exist are all nice. None of them are very detailed, but again, I have to say that I feel like this is related to the character that we play as and his condition. If I were in his shoes, I'd probably not take too much time to notice all the details and intricacies of the world around me, but I don't know, maybe that's just me. Regarding audio, the voice acting is easily one of the highlights, along with the sound design for the clues and enemy tells. The soundtrack itself is mostly ambient, though there are a few tracks scattered throughout the experience. I could keep gushing about how unique this experience has been, from the control schemes and the game design down to the attention to detail and the relationship between the gameplay and the setting itself, but I do have a duty to also highlight what could be improved. For me, the main issue that I ran into is that the game is simply frustrating to play at times. Sure, the relationship between the gameplay and the setting is really cool, but like I said, your hand is going to ache after a while. Furthermore, multiple were the moments in which I tried to get my weapon and the option to pick it up simply didn't show up, which sometimes caused either harm or death to my character. Plus, as you progress, you get different weapons that are placed in different points of your back, so it becomes even harder to grab the correct one. Another thing is that the game did feel a bit too easy for me, as it gives you lots and lots of resources. This one's gonna be addressed soon, however, as the developer is working on hard mode. Another potential problem is that while the game is generous with its resources, you can eventually run out if you use too many in one area, and that can easily get you stuck and maybe even having to reload another save to try and save more resources in earlier areas. It didn't happen to me, but it is technically possible. All in all though, I feel like Endoparasitic's strength is in how unique it is and how well it ties its gameplay mechanics to its setting. It's rare to see a game that's played using exclusively the mouse, and even rarer to see it making sense within the context of the game. It might not be a long playthrough, but it easily earns my recommendation. On the technical side of things, the game ran fine for me in my system. You can find its specs on the description of the video. So if this seemed interesting to you, you can pick up this game on PC. I'll leave the link to the Steam store page in the description. And now, for the fun YouTube stuff. If this video was useful to you and if you'd like to see more, please do leave a like, comment your opinion on the game and subscribe. That aside, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.